Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today is the Northern Commander, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, a Kargil hero, a distinguished officer who's been at the helm of Operation Snow Leopard. He is the only army commander with a gallantry award after General Arun Sridhar Vaidya and is also a recipient of Uttam Yudh Seva Medal, Ati Vishisht Seva Medal, Veer Chakra and Sena Medal. Ladies and gentlemen, while all of India has been battling the pandemic for almost 2 years now, our forces in the Northern Command have had to go through a very tough time. At the helm of it has been Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi. Sir, let me begin by asking you your assessment of 18 months and today, a very special occasion as India is commemorating 50 years of the 1971 war as Swarnim Vijay Varsh. Let me begin by asking you your 18 months and the significance of this day and the Swarnim Vijay Varsh.
Okay, so a large number of events have been organized to celebrate the Swarnim Vijay Varsh, and the aim of these events, is to showcase the decisive victory of the Indian Armed Forces over Pakistan in the 1971 operations, which led to the creation of a new nation, Bangladesh. It also resulted in the biggest military surrenders after World War II. While the focus of the 1971 operations was in the Eastern Theatre, but Northern Command also had a large number of operations which were carried out here, and these were in the area of Chhamjodiyan, the Manawar, in the area of Poonch, and the area of Ladakh. So all these events that are being conducted as of now are aligned to the movement of 4 victory flames all over the country and also to Bangladesh. And one of these flames arrived in the Northern Command area of responsibility on the 30th of April. And since then, this flame has been escorted to all the cities in the Northern Command, to the residence of the Veer Naris and the war veterans of the 1971 operations. And so far, this flame has been escorted to 34 villages, towns, cities in my area of responsibility, and 18 Veer Naris and war veterans have been felicitated. So similar kind of events will continue in Northern Command till 31st of August, when this flame will enter the Western Command area of responsibility. And one of the major events will be held on the 26th of July, that is the Kargil Vijay Divas, when the flame will reach the war memorial at Dras. And the entire effort of all these events has been to create awareness and to reinvigorate patriotism amongst the masses.
Well, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, it's not very often that we get an opportunity to interview you. So let me now break it down for all our viewers who've been eagerly waiting to hear from you. The situation right now. Let me begin with the Western Theatre. Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, you visited forward areas in LOC, formations in the hinterland on 2nd of June. How effective has the ceasefire understanding which was reached on 25th of February this year been so far? Do you expect Pakistan to continue to comply with the agreement?
Well, yes. So as of now, the ceasefire understanding that has been reached with Pakistan is holding out. And the Pakistani army, on whom the onus rests of ensuring that the ceasefire understanding holds, is abiding by the agreements that we have arrived at. So since 25th of February, when we have arrived at the agreement, there have been no ceasefire violations on the line of control. Along with this, considering the fact that last year, that is in 2020, there were over 5,000 ceasefire violations. And this year itself, in the first 2 months, that is in the month of January and February, we had over 700 ceasefire violations. With this data, it is not very difficult to fathom what effect these ceasefire violations have on the lives and the livelihood of the civilians who are staying close to the line of control, both in Jammu and Kashmir as well as in the Pak-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. So therefore, the sustenance of the ceasefire violation is critical in terms of keeping in mind the perspective of peace and tranquility in the border areas. Also, if you see, the cause-effect loop, we have the ceasefire violations, then we have infiltration, and then we have violence in the hinterland. So all these three things are closely, very, very closely intertwined, interlinked. And therefore, the sustenance of ceasefire understanding will definitely, surely reduce the violence in the UT of J&K. And this also act as a catalyst for persistent peace in the valley. But like I said, the onus, rests squarely on the Pakistan Army and its ancillaries. While we remain committed to adhere to the agreement that has been reached. At the same time, we continue to maintain a high level of operational preparedness on the line of control. We continue with intensive counter-terrorist operations in the hinterland. The troops deployed in Northern Command are highly motivated and prepared to meet any challenge should there be. I am sanguine that the Pak Army, for a change, will adhere to the agreement and will show a positive attitude this time and not let any rogue elements, seize this peace initiative.
Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, I would like to focus a little bit more on the ceasefire understanding, because that becomes very crucial given the fact that in the summer months, one bigger concern has been infiltration. So the dynamics of the ceasefire understanding vis-a-vis infiltration in the upcoming summer months, and also keeping in mind there have been multiple media reports essentially suggesting the trend of recruitment in the valley still remains same like 2020 figures. Roughly about 40 youths who have joined the terror ranks, 50 are missing. These are media reports that I'm quoting. But your understanding of the situation, on the one hand, terror recruitment, and secondly, infiltration vis-a-vis the ceasefire understanding.
So, as far as infiltration is concerned, this year there has been zero infiltration. There was one attempt across the line of control to infiltrate, which was successfully eliminated. And so, keeping that in mind, that is one thing apart. But overall, the IS situation has drastically improved in the valley. The violence parameters have all gone down, be it infiltration, like I said, this year there has been none, be it terrorist-initiated incidents, be it recruitment actually. You talked about recruitment being the same levels as 2020. Last year there were about 192, local youth, misguided youth who got recruited. This year there have been only about 39 so far, and this continues to remain a bane which is being addressed both by the security forces and the civil administration as well. So overall, the residual terrorist strength has also gone down, and as of now, it is approximately 200. In the last year and a half, 18 months, we have neutralized 270 terrorists. About 140 overground workers have been arrested. There's been a drastic blow to the terror network because of all this. Recruitment is on the decline, like I said. The another trend we know which is happening is of surrenders, which has been encouraged by the parents. The parents really deserve, it's a very laudatory event that is happening, wherein the parents who were earlier passive when that, wars were getting recruited, but now we see a change wherein the parents are encouraging their children to go out to, and look at a new life. Large number of surrenders have also been, pushed by the parents, which is a very, very positive trend. And I can say with a fair degree of confidence, that the narrative in Kashmir is now changing since August 2019.
Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, you make a very important point. The narrative in Kashmir has always been a big issue right now. How do you think things have really changed over the last few years, and also keeping in mind we're looking at levels of terrorist-related incidents, as you pointed out, on the decline, but overall situation in the hinterland? You've had incidents like the killing of BJP leaders like Rakesh Pandita and various other incidents that have also taken place. But how do you assess the situation in the hinterland of Jammu and Kashmir?
So the situation has drastically improved, like I said, because of the successful operations that the security forces have been carrying out in the valley. The terrorist cadres have been targeted, the terrorist leadership has been targeted, the OGWs have been targeted. As far as the UT, the government of UT is concerned, we are seeing a lot of good governance, a lot of development is happening, the youth is being engaged and weaned away from the gun culture and the violence. And overall, the sentiment of violence which was there earlier in the valley is being replaced by a sentiment of peace and development, which is a very, very positive sign in the valley.
So I would like to ask you a specific question, because a lot has been spoken about this abrogation of Article 370. Till date, there is a lot of debate over it. What I understand from interacting with the rank and file of the Northern Command, you are one person who believes in making an assessment on the ground. So today I'm asking you this question. Post abrogation of Article 370, you as an army commander, what do you think has really changed and how important perhaps this decision has been?
So post abrogation of Article 370, when the UT government came in, we are seeing a lot of initiatives being taken by the UT government in terms of development, in terms of good governance, in terms of addressing the grievances of the people. A lot of opportunities have been provided to the youth, and therefore the youth and the Awam are seeing, ushering a realization of government and security forces, giving a positive push toward development and peace initiatives. And like I said, the parents, have been instrumental in pushing a large number of surrenders. Therefore, the security forces, the civil administration, and the leaders of the society all have joined hands, in generating a human touch, which was much desired, by these misguided youth, and which is being, being done on the ground. So this is what we are seeing visibly on the ground since August 2019. And this is what is making the difference on the ground. We look forward to a lot of support from the Awam, which is happening in a big way, and that is our biggest strength.
You speak about the Awam, so hence I want to ask you this question, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, because we've had Union Minister Jitendra Singh tell us that common people in Kashmir are tired of terrorism. So how has the Awam army cooperation in the valley been, and how is the army essentially winning over the Kashmiris?
So with regard to engaging the Awam and the youth in the valley, we have this operational Sadbhavna, which came about, at the similar time when terrorism came into J&K. And the efforts of the army, in this regard or in the operation in the valley are twofold. First one is to sustain peace, and the second being to support the civil administration in ensuring that the local Awam benefits from the dividends of peace. To achieve these ends, the army is maintaining a high tempo of counter-terrorist operations, in the hinterland. At the same time, we are expanding the scope of people-friendly activities through Sadbhavna initiatives to win the hearts and minds of the people. The Sadbhavna, over a period of time, we have modified to enlarge the scope of education, including higher education has become one of our KRAs, which includes upskilling of the youth. We are collaborating with NGOs. We are collaborating with the NGOs and the corporate world to enlarge the scope. So we are enlarging the scope of Sadbhavna, wherein we are engaging with the NGOs, we are engaging with the corporate world to provide opportunities to the youth for generating employment outside. And since our primary focus has been the youth in Sadbhavna. With regard to field of education, we have 43 Army Goodwill schools in the valley. We have the Super 30 for medical. We have Super 50 for the engineering students, which have been subscribed to in a very big way. We are giving scholarships to approximately 1,500 students every year and making efforts to further sponsor them for higher education, outside J&K universities, including IIM at Indore. Every year, in part of Sadbhavna, we are conducting about 250 medical camps, over 90 veterinary camps in the remotest of the area in Jammu and Kashmir. And, this is giving benefit to over 1 lakh people in the remote areas, as well as over 90,000 livestock. Besides that, sports activities, competitions with cultural activities, they are the core of creating creative youth engagement. We're also looking at, a series of talent hunts, which are the most liked and subscribed to by the youth of the valley. Women empowerment, is embedded into all these activities, and the girls of the valley are now looking forward to build up their future. So with providing all these opportunities to the youth, we are looking at winning away the youth from the culture of gun and violence in the valley.
Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, let me then ask you, because Operation Sadbhavna becomes a very crucial aspect of the relationship between the army and Awam in Kashmir. You've been in Kashmir for a very, very long time. Large part of your career has been in Jammu and Kashmir. So you are perhaps best suited to tell me this. The situation before abrogation of Article 370 and the situation after that. What do you think has drastically changed in your opinion, and what has really helped the army post 370?
Post 370, like I mentioned earlier, with the UT government coming in, the environment has totally changed. With the initiatives taken by the LG and the UT government, there is a sentiment, like I said, which was earlier of violence, stone pelting, terrorist incidents, the youth, not engaged in the right manner, which has now totally changed. And the environment has now changed to a sentiment of peace and development. And the Awam, is now looking at carrying on with their lives in an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. So the Awam is totally fed up of this violence.
Let me now shift gear, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, because on 1st of June, this is what you had said. We have displayed maturity, restraint and humanitarian outlook during the trying times of COVID pandemic. So let me then ask you, what has the greatest challenge been for your command that has faced in the light of this pandemic?
Luckily, while the second wave came, all over the nation, but in Jammu and Kashmir, we were able to manage it and control it at the right time. So while the number of cases did increase, but within Northern Command and within J&K itself, the COVID pandemic was, because of proactive actions taken by Northern Command as well as the state government, we were able to control it in the right manner. The other issue is that, as you are aware, that Northern Command is an operational command. And we are defending the borders on the LAC, on the LC, AGPL, and even on the international border. And deployed all over, all formations are operationally committed and deployed, including the hinterland, where we're fighting the proxy war as well. So therefore, keeping this in mind, force preservation, was my priority, and this was the most critical to me. And I'm happy to put on record that this is one thing we achieved complete success. So while this was my primary focus, force preservation, but we were also seized with our responsibility, to assist the citizens of India in the command theatre and also assist the civil administration. So therefore, despite the heavy operational commitments, and the need to keep our force safe from COVID, we came out with a four-pronged strategy to assist the civil administration. The first one being, to educate and sensitize the people, wherein we send out COVID patrols to the remotest of the areas, we established helplines, we established control centers, and the people and the Awam were educated on what precautions to take and whom to contact should there be a problem. The second prong was that we took the load of the ex-servicemen, the Veer Naris, and the dependents onto us. And again, we contacted them since we had the contact numbers of all the ex-servicemen and the Veer Naris. We proactively contacted all of them, educated them, and got in touch with them to reassure them that should there be any problem, we are there to assist them. Here, I would also like to make a mention that the large number of ex-servicemen in Jammu and Kashmir who volunteered and formed volunteer groups to assist the civil administration. These are people who were ex-nursing assistants and with the medical profession, and they came in very handy to help the civil administration as well. The third prong of our COVID strategy was to extend the services, the medical infrastructure and services to the civil administration, wherein, we did large number of COVID testing for the civil administration. We admitted civilians to the army hospitals, of course, in conjunction with the civil administration, and we provided large number of amenities to the civil administration as well. And the fourth prong was, we proactively helped the civil administration in boosting the infrastructure with regard to COVID. A 250-bed COVID facility came up in Rangret in Srinagar. Another 20-bed facilities came up in Baramulla and Kupwara. A 100-bed facility came up in Aknoor to assist the civil administration. So besides this four-pronged strategy, we took large number of other initiatives as well, helping in the transportation of equipment, oxygen cylinders, COVID-related cargo, oxygen cylinders, and also we carried out repair of oxygen generation plants at two places. Our electrical and mechanical engineers proactively repaired two oxygen generation plants which were lying unused for a very long time. So the medical teams in Northern Command have been working day and night to assist the civil administration and of course keeping the force preserved.
One final question, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi, and this is about an assessment, an overall assessment of the 18 months, because not often does an army commander have to really go through the challenges that you have faced in the last 18 months guarding the LOC as well as the LAC aggressions on both sides. So what is your prognosis? What is your assessment of the 18 months looking at both sides, both the theatres?
So these last 18 months have been extremely challenging. Not only we had on the Western Front the large number of ceasefire violations which were going on, the activities, the terrorist activities in hinterland were also at a peak at some time, but of course the ceasefire understanding happened and now there is peace and tranquility on the line of actual control. Then we had the situation that built up in May last year on the LAC, and we had the transgressions which took place by the PLA in Eastern Ladakh, which of course we handled in a very, very befitting manner. So engagement there continues. There is stability on the LAC as well. We continue to engage with the PLA, negotiate with them to disengage from the balance of the areas and further look at de-escalation once this happens. So that has also continued to happen on the LAC. And the hinterland, of course, post the ceasefire understanding has also been extremely stable, and we hope to continue in this manner.
Well, thank you very much, Lieutenant General Y.K. Joshi. It's been a pleasure interviewing you, and this is your first interaction with Republic TV. We're hoping that we'll have more such interactions with you because many viewers have written to us trying to at least hear you on our platform. So once again, thank you very much for speaking to our viewers through Republic TV, and all the best as you continue with the challenges on both the frontiers.